Okay, let's get into our first real demo video here in Chapter 7 by just getting comfortable with the script task. Let me go ahead and say this video is followed by two others that are language dependent. So this video is, hey, here's what the script task is and does. And then the next video is the C# version of getting comfortable with the code that's auto-generated. And then the next video is the VB version. So it is totally cool if you already know the basics of the script task to skip videos 3, 4, and 5 and just go straight to number 6, and we'll talk about reading and writing variables. So totally fine. Don't be shy. Go ahead and jump over this one if you need to. Okay, so for those of you that are still here, I am assuming that you do not have a lot of experience working with .NET, so, or rather working with the script task. So let's go ahead and we're going to create a new project. And let's just talk a little bit about using the script task, what actually happens when it's invoked. We'll kind of just get into a little more details about the script task. So here's our guy. This is not the only place that we use .NET code. If you remember back in Chapter 4, we talked about in the data flow task, we also had the script component under the transformations. This is another area where we would actually, you could see it says that it executes a custom script. Well, that means it executes some custom C# or custom Visual Basic. These are the two biggest places you're going to be using .NET, either the script task or the script component of a data flow task. Coming up here, I'm just going to remove the script component. We have a section towards the end of the chapter that we're going to use and devote to the script component. So the bulk of what we're going to use, and truly the bulk of what you do use in SSIS, is done with the script task. Okay. So let's go ahead and just take a look at what we get here. This is a fairly easy screen to understand for somebody who understands programming. We get our script language up here. I know that we covered some of this back in Chapter 4. I'm just going to revisit a little bit of that here. Why didn't we have the ability to do C# in Integration Services 2005? We did not have the VSTA. Remember that from the last video. You can see now we're able to use the VSTA. In the SSIS 2005, we only had the VSA, Visual Studio for Applications, and that only allowed you to do VB. So the VSTA, big improvement here, and it allows us also to define the entry point. Well, the entry point is pretty much what it sounds like. That simply means when the code executes, what is the name of the method that starts? Okay, so it defaults to being called main, and if you switch over to Visual Basic, that doesn't change. Switch back, and I'll just click Edit, and what it's going to do is it's going to automatically create a method called main, and that is going to be the starting point of our code. So I happen to use, in this case, C#, and don't get intimidated by all this code. The next video is going to explain every little bitty piece down here and what these all are. So we'll do the next video is a C# explanation, and then the video after that I'm going to do a Visual Basic breakdown for those of you who are VB programmers. But so coming down here, eventually you find the main method, right? Oops, sorry. So there's our main method. Well, that is the entry point of our code. Right? So what that means is when the script task fires, that's the point that runs first. Now, you can change it. Does it matter that it's called main? No. It could be called anything. You just have to make sure in, coming back over here, you just tell it what the name of the method is that is the entry point. The entry point, if you take a look, doesn't accept input parameters here. So you just make a method that doesn't do any, or doesn't return anything, so it returns void. It's that simple, and you need to define what your task result is. Don't worry, talk about that in the language specific videos coming up. Okay, so that's actually fairly simple. You can create new methods in here, so public string, get Scott's name. Yeah, I know, silly. Return Scott Wiggum. Okay, so now in the main method, I could come up here and say get Scott's name. Okay, so I can invoke other methods. We're going to talk a little bit later how we can work with custom assemblies in here, how the imports and the using clauses, the using directives work, how we extend this. But that's the basic idea here. You just come in, you write some code. You can see you've got your little debugger and everything up here. Pretty simple thing, I think. You can, by an expression, if you were to take a look up here with the expressions, notice the properties that we can set up here. You can change the name of the entry point. So I've used this in the past to have a single script task that had 2 or 3 methods, each one doing something different. And depending on who was the caller to the script task, I might execute this method or I might execute a different method. So right now the entry point is main, but you could actually have it changed to whatever you wanted to. So you could have the entry point method stored in a variable, and depending on whatever values happened before, you could call this method or that method. So you can extend it. It's just like any other task. You can have properties set with expressions. It's really not that difficult, I think, to work with this. Okay, so I tell you what, not really a whole lot I can do right yet until we get into a particular language. So how about this? I'm going to stop here. Let's come back in one of the next 2 videos. You do not need to probably watch both. So the next video that you watch is going to be how to use the script task in, and then choose the language. So I'm going to do one version for C#. I'm going to do one version for Visual Basic. You probably don't need to watch both, so pick the language that you want to learn. You can watch both, but there's probably not that big of a difference.